Hello, hello. Welcome back to the weekly Monday Motivation Podcast, No More Excuses. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, for sharing your comments and suggestions, and thank you for sharing this podcast, for helping me connect with people around the world. It's truly amazing. And I am Sandi Ballard. Didn't mention that yet. I am Sandi, your host, and the Badass Business Coach. And I help people realize their badassness. And that's exactly what last week's podcast was all about. Realizing when you felt like a badass. When your badassness peeked its head out and was shining brightly. So if you're a first-time listener, go back and listen to a few. This is podcast 178. There may be a few out there. So, how about your badassness? Do you remember when? Do you remember when you felt the most badass? For me, I thought back and I was like, it was my first half marathon 5 years ago. I nailed the time I was hoping for, and I just felt confident. I remember that feeling at the end. You know, it's probably first time, luck or beginner's luck kind of thing, maybe, but I felt really good. And it was confidence. Confidence is your badassness. Everyone has it. It just sometimes, for whatever reason, hides. We have to learn to let it out, no matter how many times we've been rejected and feel dejected. It's hard. It's scary. And it's something I help people a lot with. Even those, I have quite a few clients that are making really good money and on the outside appear that they have all their shit together. But it's something that, confidence can hide sometimes. Our badassness can hide. So we have to learn to pull it together and to really let it out and take that scary, scary step, don't we? You've probably heard the whole fake it till you make it. That can work for some people, but not everyone. I've heard many people say they wish they were as confident as so-and-so. And I was once told, this was interesting, I was told I exuded the confidence of a privileged white male. I just paused and said, thank you. So what about you? On a scale of 1 to 10, where's your confidence? From experience, my own, and with working with people on theirs, it probably depends on what they're doing and how prepared they are. For my first half marathon, I trained like a maniac. Hence, the badassness shining brightly. And it shone for an hour and 55 minutes. And that was my first half marathon was actually at 45 years old. I started running when most people are slowing down or stopping. I tend to swim upstream. Like now, my man Candy and I are moving from Indiana to California. Yep, from a cost-effective state to not so much. And we're almost 50 and 56. When most people are leaving California for a lesser expensive place to live or raise a family, we are going upstream. What about you? When have you done something that seemed unnatural, not typical, or what most people would think you shouldn't do? Perhaps even you. Maybe you stopped yourself because it didn't go along with the norm. That lack of confidence caused you to pull back or even nix the idea. Remember, failure is temporary, regret is forever. I'll say that again. Failure is temporary, regret is forever. Stepping out of your fuzzy slipper comfort zone can be scary, especially if you aren't feeling confident. But like the example I mentioned in last week's podcast, when a gymnast sticks a landing, the badassness shines. Practice, 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 right? Like for my marathon, train, train, train. But what if it's a new move? For me, it was the first time. I'd never run 13.1 miles in my life. I didn't start running until I was 40. And so, with the gymnast, with any athlete, with any person, when have you, quote unquote, stuck the move? It can still be nerve-wracking, especially if it's something new. But wouldn't you rather have a moment of learning than a lifetime of, I wish I had? So this week I want you to think more about when you've been badass, when you've been confident, how it felt, what were you doing? And also the opposite, when you didn't feel badass and confident, what's the difference? What was different? What were you doing that was different? Were you trying something new, which is good? And what happened? I want to hear from you. All right? So think about the times you've been badass, and you were supposed to do that last week. That was one of the challenges in social media. And think about a time when you weren't, and what was the difference? And make sure you're continuing to follow me on social media, because I will post challenges and questions throughout the week. So find me or email me, sballard@growingforward.biz. And just feel free to Google me, Sandi with an I, S-A-N-D-I, Ballard. I come up on most of the Google search pages. All right, have a great week, a badass week, a confident week. I look forward to hearing from you. Cheers.